Welcome to the podcast, Kate. I am so excited for this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
It is such a joy. It really is an honor to be here, Jennifer. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited because you talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and I feel like you're one of the people that isn't a ripple maker. You want to make change in the world. You want to make those what I call my tsunami of changes. But
Mm.
I want to know, in the beginning of your journey and the beginning of starting your business, what was that like?
Very different than where I am today. I was very nervous. At the time, I was working full time as an accountant, but I had that inner nudge that I'm meant to not be working with the computer, but work directly with people, which I've always loved doing. And I started dabbling in teaching meditation classes and empowering women. And then I got the message I should quit, but I did not have the courage or trust at the time to do that. This was about 11, 12 years ago. So I ended up getting laid off, which ended up being of such a blessing. And that catapulted me into this whole journey of becoming an entrepreneur. It was still really scary because I didn't have any predictable paycheck, and how am I going to pay my bills? And back then I was so pragmatic. And pragmatic is okay to a point, but but I have learned over the years it is so much better from a perspective of building our own business and doing what we love to do. It's so much better for me to go with the flow and trust. And because at the beginning, when I first started my business, I was in so much fear. And it was like really almost like trying to control getting clients. And that doesn't work. But thankfully, over time, with my experience and taking personal development classes and just relaxing and trusting more and surrendering, I am now in the maybe last year or two, so much more in the flow, much more in a place of love. So now it's easier for me to get clients. Now, I'm not quite at where I want to be, but I'm definitely can tell the difference now on how some of them are just falling right into my lap without any effort. So I really want to encourage your listeners to know it is possible to have a successful business in a place when we can develop that sense of surrender and go with the flow and know things will happen. When we have that passion to do the work we love, it will come.
Yeah. And that surrender is so hard because, again, like you said, there's so many fears. And I also feel like there's like this internal battle. I know this is one of the topics that you love to cover is that internal battle of it's fear. And we have to put it, we have unique greatness. We have this desire. I want to know, like, from your standpoint, because, like, I love that you shared the journey. I've been doing this for years. It's been in the last few years. I'm still not there. This is something I see the industry missing. And I'd
Mm.
love to share a little bit about like what you've learned in these last 2 years of being in flow.
Oh, yes, I have learned so much. It is so much about surrender, Jennifer. It's also about trusting myself. I've learned to, from things that I have seen that have worked, I then grab onto it, so to speak, and say, hey, see, this worked. This was successful. And by my going out and relaxing when I network, and I'm not trying to, oh, I've got to tell somebody about my business and, oh, have that inner fear of, oh, I hope they say yes. I used to do that. And boy, that just doesn't work. And what has helped me is when I go out and I'm relaxed, I'm really in a place of detachment. If it's meant for them, they will say yes. And that has helped me a lot in my journey of relaxing and going with the flow and building up my business is just detachment and trust that if they're meant to be one of my clients, then they will be. I'm known as the confidence coach, but I'm also a life coach. Well, that kind of interweaves with confidence coaching. And I'm also a financial coach, all certified. And so I can offer a lot to people, but not everyone needs it and not everyone will resonate with me. And I'm at a point where I'm okay with that because those people who come they'll know it and they'll do the work with me.
Oh, wow. What a beautiful blend of the three. I mean, confidence, finances, and life coaching all together. Now I can see how, like, when I did some research, why I was connecting with the tsunami maker versus a ripple maker, as those
Yeah.
three combined can really make some big changes.
Yes. Yeah. If a client wants to focus only on confidence building, we will do that. And if they want to focus only on finance, we'll do that. It's client led. But sometimes the two will interweave. So it's really whatever the client wants. Yes. So I love coaching. It's such a wonderful modality.
Yeah. And they're all, I always feel like everything, including success, it all starts from within.
Oh, yes. Gosh, absolutely. Totally. And I'm living proof of the journey I've experienced, of the fear I had before, and now in a place of going with the flow. Plus, I am much more in my own confidence. So when we want to build a successful business, whatever that business is, as an entrepreneur or a manager of a large corporation, or even just being whatever position we are at any job, having the self-love, having the confidence from within really helps. But it's not so easy to get there. I mean, it's not like a light switch. Oh, suddenly I'm going to turn the light switch on and now I'm all confident. It takes practice and work. And that's what I do with my clients. And I love it when I see their successes and they're believing in themselves more because they have more confidence. So yeah, it is so true. It all comes from within. We have to have what I call like very strong foundation of confidence and belief in ourselves. When we do that, then we're better able to show up and really give our skills in an authentic way. And we have more empowerment. When we believe in ourselves, then we are empowered. And people sense that not only in our words, but energetically, because as Jennifer, we're all interconnected and all we pick up consciously or unconsciously what another person feels. So, like, for example, way back when I was just starting my business, I tried my best to show up confidently and open and let things flow. But inside there was a fear. And I know that the others were sensing unconsciously that fear. It was all energy, right?
Yeah. And I think the more we lean into knowing it's all energy, we're all connected by energy to everything on this planet.
Mm.
I think that's where we can start to unfold and let our unique energy out. So coming back to confidence and that inner trust, is this something that anyone can, I don't want to say learn, but is it something we can learn?
Oh, absolutely. We can all learn to be confident. We can learn to believe in ourselves. There's many, many tools on how to do this. However, I will also say maybe we could even say it as a prerequisite, but not necessarily. But something else that goes hand in hand with using tools to build confidence is also doing our own interpersonal work. It's essential that we recognize, I mean, if we're willing and if we're ready to recognize that which is within ourselves. Oh, recognizing maybe a childhood trauma or recognizing, God, I'm always get triggered when I see this person because this person reminds me of my brother and he abused me as a child. Or we've got, all of us have various issues. So yes, we can build confidence and all that. And it's absolutely just as important that we do the inner work to do whatever healing it is. Like I just had a client yesterday. It was so sweet. Oh my goodness. She wanted so much to get the approval of her stepfather and her mom. And without going into any details, she was reaching out to them. But for years and years, the stepfather and mom would just not acknowledge her. They always had something negative to say. Well, why are you doing this? She's explaining to me the depth of how they just don't acknowledge her. So we started working on looking at how can you acknowledge yourself. And she also brought up, she came up with the idea, and it was so beautiful 2 or 3 sessions prior to that, that she needed to do some inner child work. So yes, take exercises and tools and also do that inner work so that she can go through and heal. As you well know, Jennifer, acknowledge it, recognize it, process through the feelings, don't stuff it, do whatever we need to do, and then lovingly release it. And in that, it helps to dissipate and help to release and even get it taken away. Maybe not 100% right away, but in time. I'm living proof of that. I had my own childhood trauma. Most of us have. So I know what it's like to have that shame and low confidence as a kid, and now to be the confidence coach. And in truth, that's truly why I am so passionate about doing the work, because I know it's possible to overcome it.
Yeah. And doing the work is really where you get to start standing in your unique power and your unique,
Yes.
like whatever it is that you are meant to be on this planet. And it is scary. And I think one of the things that you brought up that like immediately my heart was like, oh, yes, that's it, is that sometimes we need to give what we're looking for to ourselves.
Oh, yes, that is so true. And they'll say that teachers or coaches, counselors tend to draw the very clients they need to then reinforce within themselves the very work that they need to do. Isn't that something? But that goes back into this whole law of attraction, and everything is a mirror to us.
Yeah. And it truly is. And that's one of the things I've loved about coaching. I used to do Reiki and chronic illness coaching. And it was like every time I met with a client, just like this, every time I have a person come on my podcast, it's where there's a piece missing in my life.
Wow.
Like this conversation, I needed to hear that specific statement. And I truly believe that's the same with coaching, and it's allowing it to be. And I love that that's what you're doing, and you're helping people discover for themselves.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, helping people to discover for themselves and to recognize their brilliance and their greatness. They may or may not feel that way right now, but it's possible to get to that place. It is. It's such a beautiful thing.
Because once they recognize their greatness, they can go on to do great things, right? And I'm leading into this because I know there's something really exciting that you have that is that next step. You discover your confidence, you discover your greatness, and then you release it into the world.
Yes. This is the way to live authentically, Jennifer, as you well know. Living authentically means we know ourselves well enough. We are confident. We are empowered. We feel we are great. We're not any better, not any less than anyone else. We are on an equal level playing field, but we feel good enough about ourselves that it's easier to then give our gifts, our skills to others. And can you imagine 100,000 people? How about 1,000,000? How about 100 million people? 1 billion people on the planet doing just this. There's going to be a massive shift on the planet. And actually, I know you'll probably lead into this. My book talks about just this very thing, but it starts with one person at a time. And when we can live in our authenticity, then we can better contribute that unique piece of the puzzle of what's called all of humanity. It's powerful.
Yeah. And that's exactly where I was leading into, because I know that your book is about that. It's like standing in our power. Like you said, what if 100 of us, 1,000 of us, 100,000, 1,000,000, 2,000,000 all stand in our power? That energetic change within the entire planet
Yes.
is
That is such a
possible.
beautiful thing. It is. It is possible. That's why I'm really optimistic for the future. It's hell to go through right now sometimes for us. It's difficult. It's been difficult for me. It's been difficult for so many, individually and on the planet. But through our work and willingness to take on key concepts that will help us, we can make positive change. We can make positive change. Yeah. My book is called Humanity's Cry for Change. And the subtitle is Actions You Can Take to Create a New Earth. And so it does describe how important it is to do the individual work. And yes, some self-esteem exercises and a bunch of other exercises so that we can live in our own peace. Because as we have peace within, that's going to be projected out. And again, that's why I'm optimistic of this new age of Aquarius that I believe we are coming through with this through as a result of the evolutionary shift.
Yeah. And I'm so excited about your book. I'm so excited about what you're bringing, because I don't think there's a lot of light that's shed on, like, in the right way. Like, one person truly can make a difference by healing within, because maybe it doesn't look like a global change. Maybe it's you heal, it heals your relationship. You
Yes.
don't pass it down to the generations below you. And it might be your small network, but it's like that 1 degree of separation. They go out and they
Yeah.
go out. And I love that that's what you've decided to bring out in your book. So I got to know, like, what inspired you to write this book?
Spirits inspired me to write this book. I was became aware about 20 years ago while in meditation that I am getting this profound and beautiful, loving words of wisdom. And so I was drawn one day to grab a pen and paper, and I literally started writing word for word, like dictation. I call it automatic writing, or some call it channeling. So I did. I just wrote these words, and they were for me first. And in time, as I continued doing this beautiful automatic writing, one set of writings became my first book called Deeply We Are One, which is in essence about recognizing our greatness. And in doing so, yes, living more authentically. And as a result, we can then see the good and greatness of others and then better understand that we are all interconnected. So then after a couple of years, the automatic messages came through again. And about over a 3-year period of automatic writing, it became very clear to me I was meant to write a second book and to get it out there as well. And so many, many hundreds of hours later, organizing it and putting it in sequential order, because it wasn't given to me in sequential order. And I'm like, oh, but this message is so powerful. So I'm very grateful I did take the time and was compelled in a loving way to do this. So in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, I published it. And yeah, I'm really just honored to share the message of this book, because it really is a good help. There's other authors, there's other messengers out there, and whoever is to resonate with those will resonate, and those who will resonate with mine will come. And it's all beautiful. It's all a beautiful flow. So the messages are very simple, but very powerful. And it also explains about why we're going through so much havoc on the planet. I mean, like, there's probably a lot of people wondering, why is there even more craziness? Why is there all these possible financial systems and economic systems that are going crazy? And why am I in my individual life going through even more trauma? And it explains the reason for that. And Jennifer, it shows also the reason this is happening. It is actually for good. It's all for good. So it's all explained in the book.
Oh, and that's the piece that's missing, because that's the piece that mainstream doesn't want us to know about, of like, why is it happening for the good? And I mean, I hate to go down that conversation, because I know that's a whole rabbit hole and one of my, like, fire up points. But I love that there are people out there like you that are saying, no, hey, stop. This actually happened for good. Like I see, I mean, don't get me wrong, last 3 years have been hard, but there was so much good that came out of it that if you really looked,
Yes.
you could see.
Mm-hmm.
If you put some blinders on to some of those sources that were like negative, negative. And I love that that's what your book focuses on is like, yeah, hey, we're in turmoil, but we had to shake this up because
Yes.
it had to change.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, Jennifer, as you probably know well. It's really important that things be shaken up, being brought to the surface so that we can look at it and then it gets dealt with, it gets processed through, it gets released. So this is on an individual basis, like I said earlier, but it is also on a global basis, collective as well as individual. We're all in this together. And that's what it is. We got to shake it up because the new cannot come in until the old has been resolved and gotten rid of. It's like this beautiful analogy of the spring. And here we are in the spring. The spring, the leaves on the tree are coming in, but how can they unless in the fall the leaves fall off? So now we've got leaves that can come back because the old ones left. And then I also, if may I share an amazing analogy of what's happening on the planet? This is from my book, Humanity's Cry for Change. And I just love the analogies Spirit gave me. So what's happening right now, as many of us know, is a huge evolutionary leap. So imagine a greenhouse. It has a certain temperature, it has a certain level of humidity, it has a certain environment. And the plants have adapted to it. They do really well with a certain level of temperature, environment. How crowded is it? They do well. They are thriving. What if those conditions were to change? So the temperature drops. The plants are not going to do as well unless they learn to adapt. Well, the same is true. This is the analogy of what's happening on the planet. The dear Mother Earth has certain parameters, temperature, the air, all of these varieties, but also on an energetic level, vibrational level, the earth is at a certain level, and the earth herself is ascending into higher vibration. And with people, we are intricately at one with Mother Earth. So those of us who will adapt to the higher vibration will do well. But those of us, there are people who are resisting the changes on the planet, consciously or not. And when they resist, they rub up against what is now considered and what now is the new environment, the new parameters of the Mother Earth. So those who are of a lower vibration, bless them, they are where they need to be. However, if they don't adapt to the higher vibration, they're going to rub up against and have a more difficult time. And I love that analogy. I think it really describes well the shift of the energy, the vibration, the frequency, as well as what do we as an individual person do? Are we going to resist the change or are we going to go flow with it? For some, it's good. They need to resist. That's their path. For others, they're going to adapt. And as there's so many wonderful light workers and all of your listeners here, many of the healers and incredible workers that we all are helping to shift. We are in alignment of that higher vibration that the Mother Earth now has. And it's not just Mother Earth, but it's the whole ecosystem of what's called humanity. So you can tell I get really excited about this.
And you should be excited because I mean, that was like before we had this conversation, before we started the interview, that's what we're talking about is it's like this pause allowed us to reconnect, reconnect to self, reconnect to nature, because we weren't allowed to connect necessarily in person with each other. So I feel like a lot more people started reconnecting to the planet itself.
Oh, yeah. It's such a beautiful thing, isn't it? Yes. Reconnection is key.
Yeah. And I know in the beginning you mentioned that you were used meditation to kind of move through some of your journey. Can you share a little bit about like meditation, and because there's so many versions of meditation. I just
Mhm.
love to know like how meditation falls into your journey and your current life.
Sure. Oh, I started meditating maybe around 30 years ago. And as I did, of course, meditation has a wonderful cumulative effect. I am much better able today to get more into silence easier during meditation and even just briefly during the day. So, my typical morning routine will be I'll get out of bed. I love to have my cup of coffee. I'll read an inspirational book, something very spiritual. And then I will usually do like a 10-minute yoga stretching. And after that, I will start meditating. And I have noticed if I don't meditate, my whole day is different. It is so super rare for me not to meditate. I probably meditate, oh, I don't know, maybe 99% of the time. On a rare occasion, I might miss a day, but it has made a huge difference in my life. And it also helps me to have more intuition and to be more during the day, more aware, more in a conscious level of awareness of what's going on around, and helps me to live more in the present moment. I'm really working on that too, working on just living more in the present moment.
Yeah. And that's where the magic happens. I feel like when you spend too much time looking ahead or too much time looking behind, it's you get to miss out on all the cool things.
Yes, that is so true. Yeah. I mean, there's so many beautiful things to see in the present moment. And of course, that helps to lower the fear. If we can recognize, hey, I'm in a place, I'm really safe right now, just being in presence and having that beautiful silence, or maybe not silence, maybe a beautiful mantra, but to be in that space for me is that connection with God or the universe, the source of all, which helps. And that has helped me with my business and my everyday life to bring in the flow, as you well know. Just having that sense of presence and connection with God and trust. It's amazing what happens. And we can make that shift. If we're a business owner and we're not doing really well, perhaps this is an invitation to kind of assess, well, where are you at? And wherever you are is okay. Not to beat ourselves up, right? Not to,
Yes.
oh, I should be ahead. I used to always compare myself to others and think, oh God, I'm not doing it right. And I used to beat myself up all the time. Well, that sure doesn't help. And that sure doesn't help the higher, I mean, it doesn't add to higher vibration, right?
Right.
It's like
Not at
crazy.
all. And I
So,
know you have something for our listeners to help them get into that also. Can you want to share that with us?
oh, yes, thank you. I'm very honored to have two heart-centered meditations that anyone who comes to my website, joyfulradiance.com, anyone who comes and opts in for my 1 month, it's a monthly e-newsletter, will get the two free heartwarming meditations. And they're very, very calming and they just do open the heart. So, yeah, joyfulradiance.com is where I can be reached. And I'm also offering just a complimentary coach session if anyone would like it. I'm always honored to have people experience the coaching modality. And yeah, and it just helps with meditation as well. When we listen to that meditation, the two free ones I have. So yeah, I'd like to share and offer that.
And I'll make sure to get all that information in the show notes. But I think that that's just like, that is one of the things that I think we truly need to work on is getting into self,
Yeah,
getting into our bodies, learning to meditate. Meditation has been one of the all-time hardest things that I have ever done, yet it's been one of the best things for my life, my health, my business, everything. So I think it's thank you for sharing that with us because I think the more heart-centered meditations we can do, when we can operate from our heart, that's where success lies also.
absolutely. That is so key. I'm really glad you brought that up, Jennifer. opening the heart opens up and brings us into higher vibration. And one easy way to do that is to have gratitude, just gratitude for whatever. There's so many things to be grateful for, even just having the opportunity to get out of bed or to make a meal for our family, that we're healthy enough we can make a meal or go to work. I mean, there's so much to be grateful for. And I wanted to add just briefly, if I could, about meditation. There's many different kinds of meditation. People can massively benefit from meditating if they're walking. So maybe sitting down and quiet is not for them. But when you walk in nature and you're so present and like very aware of like your foot, one foot going in front of the other, or being aware of the sounds and the looking at the trees or noticing the rabbit hopping by, being very present. Because actually that's the definition of meditation, is being so present, focused on one thing. So yeah, if your listeners find it hard to meditate in quiet, sitting down, meditating with walking or doing artwork is a wonderful way to do it. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, those are my two favorite. I am definitely I like to take what I call my meandering
Oh
walk where I
yeah.
see like what's new today. Is there a new
Oh,
mushroom that sprouted, a new flower that popped up,
oh.
or something? I always try to find something different on this one little short path that I go on every day. And then art is my other, like I have I love art. I'm all about their art. I'm a therapeutic art coach. And
Mhm.
I just everything about art makes me happy. And they're both more playful.
Oh, I love that too, playfulness. Actually, yeah, that's something I'm working on. I do play, I have fun, but not as often as I'd like. Just to do playful things. That's a wonderful way to live. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it just raises your vibration. I feel like if I can act like a 5-year-old every once in a while, finger paint or something, I'm like, let's
Oh,
do
I love
it.
it. Totally. Totally. And being free with that art. And I love what you suggested, that you just try to find something while you're doing your meandering to see something unique. There's many walking paths that I go, but I love your suggestion. I'm going to do that next time. I'm going to look for something unique and also try to be playful about it.
Yeah, it's fun. And like I said, I love the sit-in meditations now too. I can even sit in silence, but that's where I started. And I love that you brought that up, that meditation doesn't mean you're sitting on a cushion in silence, in the dark, not thinking. Like your thoughts will come, like things will happen, and that's okay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's many ways we can get into that space. For me, I love to call it the space of connection with the all that is, with God. And that's where creativity comes in, and that's where being able to manifest happens easier. I've noticed that about my life, Jennifer. And I used to not be able to manifest hardly anything I wanted. And now things are coming to me much easier, but that's because I am in the flow and I am in connection and I am in a place of surrender. It's really powerful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, so it's just, yeah, it's all about coming into self.
Yes, coming into self. That is so powerful. And then our businesses can thrive or grow as a result of being in our power within ourself. And that's one of the things that really drew me to your podcast, is the truth of that self-love empowerment, so that we can have a successful business or we can have a successful relationship or whatever. Because it really stems from everything stems from within ourselves. So how powerful is that?
Yeah. And that's why we connected. And that's how you started this interview also, is that like, hey, it's an internal job. We've
Yes.
got to look at those shadows. We've got to look at the trauma. We've got to look at the big T's, the little T traumas. We've got to look at it all and
Mhm.
and maybe not necessarily like accept and push through, but we've got to feel and let
Yeah.
that be released into back into the world, or used in a manner that lets us be empowered.
Mhm. Yes. And to try our best to not beat ourselves up during the process. oh, thinking there's something wrong with, I really should be much further ahead. I've done all this work. Why am I not here? That doesn't do any good. And everyone is really, truly, I believe, where they're meant to be. And when we can better honor that, that's going to soften the ability to then break through whatever we need to break through.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I'm like, you are speaking to my heart, and I know you're speaking to the listeners' hearts too, because this is where the work needs to happen. This is where it needs to start.
That's so true. And that's where I get very encouraged, where I have hope. When we start individually with ourselves, because we are the only ones we can control. We're the only ones that we can take action upon to work within ourselves. So again, like I mentioned earlier, what if 100,000 or 1,000,000 or 100 million people do this? We really are making that positive shift within ourselves, in our communities, our families, and then all that positive energy goes to the collective consciousness. And that's why I'm, again, hopeful that we are successful with getting into this new age of Aquarius, or the new earth, as some people call it.
Yes, I am here for it. I'm all in. Sign me up. So if
Yeah.
someone were to walk away with that one thing, whether they take it for a minute, a moment, or a lifetime, what would you want that thing to be?
Mm. What I want that thing to be is, please do the best you can to truly know the greatness, the brilliance of who you are. Tap into it. Be willing to tap into it, because you deserve it and you are amazing. Whether you really believe it or not, I know this to be truth. So tap into your greatness and brilliance and know that all is well.